An amazing gathering to be at a very strategic point in time. Bit of a foreboding lineup of speakers to follow this morning. If you're in the last session, I think Dr. Thomas had to leave, but I also have a Bayesian AI model of the human mind, but I chose to leave it back at the hotel and talk about something else this morning. Also, big shout out to Leo from Australia. Thank you, Leo, for onboarding the conference into the Australian accent. Now that you've detuned your ears to the flat Australian vowel sounds, we are on the same frequency. I hope you can follow along with me this morning. So, I think a lot of us have a similar experience as we travel around the world and work across our sectors in this area at the intersection of mission and technology. There's this great sense that we don't want to miss this really strategic moment. Perhaps we have a sense of reflection that there have been previous technological movements, shifts, inflection points in history where perhaps we've seen our community, the church at large, missions and ministry, perhaps approach new technology with a sense of caution. Maybe we've been tempted to wait and see what others might do, and then on reflection, have a sense that we could have acted, but we missed the moment. And it's a little bit like watching a rocket launch from the sidelines, knowing that you had the fuel, but you never ignited the engines. And all the while, there's a number of different challenges that lie ahead of us, but one challenge that we face at the moment, not the only challenge, but it could be that within the narrative of everything that AI promises to deliver to us in terms of increased efficiencies and productivities, we hear all the while, maybe you can think of one or more certain companies that might talk a lot about doing more with less, all of these great, fantastic features of what the prospect of artificial intelligence enables us, lurks within all of these positive things a potential danger. And one of those dangers, not the only one, but one that I'd like to bring our attention to today, is that we become more efficient in what we already know and do rather than leverage AI's transformative potential. In other words, we take hold of these technologies, we see it through the lens of how it can reinforce what we're already about, rather than recognize that these transformative shifts in society recreate and create new possibilities for how we can see the problems that each of our missions and ministries are facing, and that creates new opportunities to solve problems in new ways. And so the danger that I want to bring our attention to is that we see this technology through the lens of the current status quo, and that if we're not careful, although these are great benefits, efficiencies, productivities, these are real benefits, but if we're not able to counterbalance that with an equally transformative vision for how this new technology can solve problems in novel ways, we can end up being more efficient at what we already do and know and miss out on that opportunity. That would be a really great shame. There's a few reasons that might explain that. One of them could be we have a propensity as humans to have misaligned expectations for how we imagine technology will impact society compared to the way technology impact has a tendency to evolve. And in short, what we find repeated and observed over many different technological shifts and scenarios in society is that we have a basic tendency to overestimate the technological impact in the short term, and conversely, and dangerously, underestimate the potential for technology impact in the long term. I remember in 2022. I'm going back a few too many years. In 2022, I was in London, and the month is important. It was October. And in October of 2022, I was in London, and I was having a meeting with a friend of mine, very senior guy, very well-grounded in the disciplines of machine learning, works for one of the big four consultancy firms. And we're just sharing what each other have been up to. I hadn't caught up with him for a little while, and I shared a little bit about the work that we've been doing in the area of NLP, conversational AI. And he said, this is October 2022. Just bear that in mind. He said, like this whole thing around conversational AI, I mean, it's interesting. It's still so nascent. There's probably a good decade before there's any kind of meaningful progress, and you're better off sticking with like conventional machine learning methodologies. And I was like, on the back of, for a lot of us that have been working in this space, seeing small incremental progress, it was like, yeah, that's a very valid view of the current situation. But of course, I think all of us in this room is deeply aware of what happened in the end of November in 2022. And it just goes to show, it's not a criticism about my friend, he's actually like far more knowledgeable than myself and at the front of his industry and game. But just how easy it is for us to like miss the signs, or more importantly, our inability to accurately predict the path of technology impact. And on the back of the emergence of ChatGPT and the proliferation, the surging of investments, and the energy that has come into the area of large language models in particular, we've seen a massive amount of progress. But of course, the danger lurks in terms of the overestimation, because we get caught up in some of the hype and hyperbole. Just follow your LinkedIn feed, and there's a new tool every moment. There's a new exaggerated promise of what AI can do in the short term. And then when we come to our organizations and we try to leverage these capabilities at an application level, we realize that, it's a lot harder to do this. And we become disappointed. And perhaps we sort of play it safe. Maybe we make stakes in the ground about what we'll get involved in, what we won't get involved in, and maybe we miss the opportunity again. But the danger is our propensity to also underestimate the technological impact that lies in the future, and how important it is for us to be building capabilities in the present so that we can leverage that. Another potential problem is that we have a sense towards disruptive innovations that maybe they put our jobs at threat, or we're concerned about how that will be translated or interpreted within our organizations, and the job security is a big concern. And it is a big concern. It's something very serious that we need to be mindful of. But as Clayton Christensen said, one of the preeminent business consultants, Harvard Business School professors, said, disruptive innovations create jobs. It's efficiency innovations that have a tendency over time to destroy jobs. So how can we commence with this path of disruptive innovation? Just trying to proceed Can we manually advance the slides from the back? Okay, thank you. So disruptive innovations, they commence by getting a foothold in overlooked and under-resourced opportunities. How many of us in the world of mission, ministry, whether it's the Bible translation world, Bible engagement, evangelism, like our organization, Christian Vision, do we not have many under-resourced or overlooked opportunities? Rather than think about how we can use emerging disruptive technology to reinforce what we're already doing, how about we consider what some of those opportunities that maybe we've not been able to address before, that allows us to address that in a novel way. I'm going to share a little bit about how Christian Vision is seeking to do that, and maybe that will give some ideas as well. At Christian Vision, we're simply all about evangelism, and evangelism at scale. So we want to see 1 billion people reach with the gospel of Jesus. Not a literal billion, but it's a scale of thinking. We want large-scale global impact for the cause of evangelism. That's always been the heart of what we do, not the technology or the method by which we do it. But in reality, because of the technology enablement at the time, it's always involved us seeking to reach large audiences through the vector of a handful of high-resource languages. As we progressed through technology phases, we began in 1988, primarily using shortwave radio to be able to reach global audiences through a handful of really large languages, things like English, Mandarin Chinese, Bahasa Indonesia, Spanish, Portuguese, through to social media in 2010 and beyond, and we started to realize we can use digital technologies to leverage more languages, all the way through this greater convergence of digital and physical spaces that we see as the next horizon within CV. And a little bit like the technology expectations, we expect technology to evolve in stable and continuous ways, but it's actually discontinuous and disruptive, especially when we think about artificial intelligence. In 2016, as Dan mentioned, we've worked together for a little while and have some background. We had this sense that conversational AI and natural language processing was going to become more important in the world. We didn't know anything about it, but we knew that we needed to build skills. And so we set up our AI lab within Christian Vision with an overarching goal of natural, effective, and personalized conversations. Through that work and collaboration with our team, we saw a diffusion of skills that allowed us to leverage these footholds of new opportunities by leveraging tasks like topic modeling, using machine learning to connect seekers to churches, to be able to automate aspects of our content production pipeline, all the way through to even using deepfakes in an ethical way in places where there is a good use case, people were involved in the appropriate way and protected things like security, which is also really important. But in this next iteration, what we feel technology is enabling us to again reconsider how we can address some of the intractable problems of global evangelism is to not just think about how we can reach large-scale audiences through a handful of large languages, but can we become much closer to our audience? Can we have an amplified impact in thousands of micro-opportunities that previously, because of the restrictions of technology, we've simply overlooked these opportunities, or we've not seen the reality of how people live their lives, that we've only seen them through the handful of these convenient, large access languages, rather than their true identity, involving languages that are outside of our reach. I'm going to play a few short videos, AI-generated avatars that just give a sense of personas of some of those foothold opportunities that we're on the path of addressing.
I am Gabina. I'm part of the Pashto people group in Afghanistan. It is very difficult to get people to do voiceovers in my country because of fear they might be identified and persecuted.
Hi, my name is Kumi. I am part of the Toposa people group from South Sudan. Most of my people cannot read. Getting audio resources in my language is challenging.
Hi, my name is Tasmida. I am part of the Rohingya people in Myanmar. Because of the challenges that exist in my country, it is very hard getting translations for scripts and discipleship tools.
So these are some examples of mission contexts that for us were previously overlooked or under-resourced, or as is the case with the way disruptive innovations often commence, that it's really difficult. Maybe the cost of entering into addressing a problem like that was just prohibitive. Certainly for us, barriers of language, representation of teams, network partnerships were all limitations. But again, rather than seeking to leverage this moment of AI innovation and seeking to do it in a way that reinforces the way we have always done and outworked our ministry opportunity, try to look at the world and the variety of challenges and problems through the lens of what these new capabilities can enable us. And so over the next 5 years, we're seeking to draw upon a lot of the learning and insight that we've developed over the last 8 years from those footholds of some of the skills and capabilities that we've developed in terms of rich engagement using generative AI, things like neural networks that are able to guide more sophisticated pace and lead conversations, more personalized experiences with people. We want to leverage all of that. But we also want to leverage these unique opportunities that have emerged in this most recent iteration of technology innovation. And that is the capability that we believe for the first time is possible for us to be able to develop a massively multilingual capability, which we're aiming to do over the next 5 years in the scale of 500 plus languages, scope-wise ranging from natural language understanding through to translation tasks, all the way through to generation. Because when we are able to establish those sort of capabilities, it radically transforms the way we think about global evangelism. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of questions that remain to be answered, there's a lot of complexity, and there's a lot of difficulty. There's a lot of ethical dimensions that this causes us to address in a practical way along the process. But we're really excited about this. We've learned from some of our experiences in the past around technology shifts, and we don't want to miss this moment. I want to finish with a simple encouragement to you as well, if I can move to the final slide. And as we think about disruptive innovations, just to be encouraged that although, yes, there is an aspect of disruptive innovation that messes with perhaps the order of our organizations, a disruptive innovation perhaps sort of displaces some of the existing things that we may do, some of the existing logic or ideas that are prevalent within our organizations. But when we do them, they have the capacity to renew our organizations and mission impact. And not just Christian Vision, but our partnership and fellowship with all of the ministry and mission organizations in this room, from the Bible translation movement to the Bible engagement movement to evangelism and discipleship and everything in between, our missions are far too important. We have grand challenges that are laid ahead of us. There are great uncertainties, but I would just encourage and challenge us to please look at these technologies through the lens of what they can enable us to solve some of these intractable problems in a new and different way that could unlock great benefit for the people that we're serving. I believe this is one way that we can advance missions globally through the rise of artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.